fantastic movie epic. The charging Mastodon with the tiger lifted, and the soundtrack one great blast of bloodthirsty bedlam. Then the scene dissolved in a blur of motion. He felt his rifle thud against his shoulder, knowing he had fired, but not hearing the explosion. And the Mastodon was almost on top of him, bearing down like some mighty and remorseless engine of blind destruction. He flung himself to one side, and the giant brushed past him. Out of the tail of his eye, he saw the thrown saber-tooth crash to earth within the circle of watchfires. He brought his rifle up again and caught the area behind Buster's ear with his sights. He pressed the trigger. The Mastodon staggered, then regained his stride and went rushing on. He hit one of the watchfires dead center and went through it, scattering coals and burning brands. Then there was a thud and a screeching clang of metal. "Oh, no!" shouted Hudson. Rushing forward, they stopped inside the circle of flames. The helicopter lay tilted at a crazy angle. One of its rotor blades was crumpled. Half across it, as if he might have fallen as he tried to bull his mad way over it, lay the Mastodon. Something crawled across the ground towards them, its spitting, snarling mouth gaping in the firelight, its back broken, hind legs trailing. Calmly, without a word, Adams put a bullet into the head of the saber-tooth. Chapter 5. General Leslie Bowers rose from his chair and paced up and down the room. He stopped to bang the conference table with a knotted fist. "You can't do it!" he bawled at them. "You can't kill the project. I know there's something to it. We can't give it up." "But it's been 10 years, General," said the Secretary of the Army. "If they were coming back, they'd be here by now." The general stopped his pacing, stiffened. Who did that little civilian squirt think he was, talking to the military in that tone of voice? "We know how you feel about it, General," said the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. "I think we all recognize how deeply you're involved. You've blamed yourself all these years, and there is no need of it. After all, there may be nothing to it." "Sir," said the general, "I know there's something to it. I thought so at the time, even when no one else did. And what we've turned up since serves to bear me out. Let's take a look at these 3 men of ours. We knew almost nothing of them at the time, but we know them now. I've traced out their lives from the time that they were born until they disappeared, and I might add that on the chance it might be all a hoax, we've searched for them for years, and we've found no trace at all. I've talked with those who knew them, and I've studied their scholastic and military records. I've arrived at the conclusion that if any 3 men could do it, they were the ones who could. Adams was the brains, and the other 2 were the ones who carried out the things that he dreamed up. Cooper was a bulldog sort of man who could keep them going, and it would be Hudson who would figure out the angles. And they knew the angles, gentlemen. They had it all doped out. What Hudson tried here in Washington is substantial proof of that. But even back in school they were thinking in those angles. I talked some years ago to a lawyer in New York, name of Pritchard. He told me that even back in university they talked of the economic and political problems they might face if they ever cracked what they were working at. Wesley Adams was one of our brightest young scientific men. His record at the university and his war work bears that out. After the war, there were at least a dozen jobs he could have had. But he wasn't interested. And I'll tell you why he wasn't. He had something bigger. Something he wanted to work on. So he and these 2 others went off by themselves. "You think he was working on a temporal—" The Army Secretary cut in. "He was working on a time machine," roared the general. "I don't know about this temporal business. Just plain time machine is good enough for me." "Let's calm down, General," said the JCS chairman. "After all, there's no need to shout." The general nodded. "I'm sorry, sir. I get all worked up about this. I've spent the last 10 years with it. As you say, I'm trying to make up for what I failed to do 10 years ago. I should have talked to Hudson. I was busy, sure, but not that busy. It's an official state of mind that we're too busy to see anyone, and I plead guilty on that score. And now that you're talking about closing the project—" "It's costing us money," said the Army Secretary. "And we have no direct evidence," pointed out the JCS chairman. "I don't know what you want," snapped the general. "If there was any man alive who could crack time, that man was Wesley Adams. We found where he worked. We found the workshop, and we talked to the neighbors, who said there was something funny going on. And " "But 10 years, General," the Army Secretary protested. "Hudson came here bringing us the greatest discovery in all history, and we kicked him out. After that, do you expect them to come crawling back to us?" "Do you think they went to someone else?" "They wouldn't do that. They know what the thing they have found would mean. They wouldn't sell us out." "Hudson came with a preposterous proposition," said the man from the State Department. "They had to protect themselves," yelled the general. "If you had discovered a virgin planet with its natural resources intact, what would you do about it? Come trotting down here and hand it over to a government that's too busy to recognize " "General!" "Yes, sir," apologized the general tiredly. "I wish you gentlemen could see my view of it, how it all fits together. First there were the films, and we have the word of a dozen competent paleontologists that it's impossible to fake anything as perfect as those films. But even granting that they could be, there are certain differences that no one would ever think of faking, because no one ever knew. Who, as an example, would put lynx tassels on the ears of a saber tooth? Who would know that young Mastodon were black? And the location. I wonder if you've forgotten that we tracked down the location of Adams's workshop from those films alone. They gave us clues so positive that we didn't even hesitate. We drove straight to the old deserted farm where Adams and his friends had worked. Don't you see how it all fits together?" "I presume," the man from the State Department said nastily, "that you even have an explanation as to why they chose that particular location." "You thought you had me there," said the general. "But I have an answer. A good one. The southwestern corner of Wisconsin is a geologic curiosity. It was missed by all the glaciations. Why, we do not know. Whatever the reason, the glaciers came down on both sides of it and far to the south of it, and left it standing there, a little island in a sea of ice. And another thing. Except for a time in the Triassic, that same area of Wisconsin has always been dry land. That and a few other spots are the only areas in North America which have not, time and time again, been covered by water. I don't think it necessary to point out the comfort it would be to an experimental traveler in time to be certain that, in almost any era he might hit, he'd have dry land beneath him." The economics expert spoke up. "We've given this matter a lot of study, and while we do not feel ourselves competent to rule upon the possibility or impossibility of time travel, there are some observations I should like at some time to make." "Go ahead right now," said the JCS chairman. "We see one objection to the entire matter. One of the reasons, naturally, that we had some interest in it is that, if true, it would give us an entire new planet to exploit, perhaps more wisely than we've done in the past. But the thought occurs to us that any planet has only a certain grand total of natural resources. If we go into the past and exploit them, what effect will that have upon what is left of those resources for use in the present? Wouldn't we, in doing this, be robbing ourselves of our own heritage?" "That contention," said the AEC chairman, "wouldn't hold true in every case. Quite the reverse. In fact, we know that there was in some geologic areas in the past a great deal more uranium than we have today. Go back far enough and you'd catch that uranium before it turned into lead. In southwestern Wisconsin there is a lot of lead. Hudson told us he knew the location of vast uranium deposits, and we thought he was a crackpot talking through his hat. If we'd known, let's be fair about this, if we had known and believed him about going back in time, we'd have snapped him up at once, and all this would not have happened." "It wouldn't hold true with forests either," said the chairman of the JCS, "or with pastures, or with crops." The economics expert was slightly flushed. "There is another thing," he said. "If we go back in time and colonize the land we find there, what would happen when that, well, let's call it retroactive, when that retroactive civilization reaches the beginning of our historic period? What will result from that cultural collision? Will our history change? Is what has happened false? Is all "That's